Bonjour et bienvenue à tous.
Hello, and welcome everybody.
Le cours de ce jour est
Today's class
consacré à la
is devoted to the presentation of the Convention on Biological Diversity.
Nous allons passer en revue
We are going to review the history, the bodies, and a few recent decisions of the Convention on Biological Diversity.
la diversité biologique.
I invite you to read the text of the Convention, which includes only 42 articles, but also to visit the website of the Convention, which is indicated here. Biodiversity, or biological diversity, means the variability among living organisms on three levels. Genes, these are generic resources. Species, the species level, and ecosystems, the habitat. The biological resources of Earth are vital for the economic and social development of mankind. Consequently, there is an increasingly greater recognition that biological diversity is a global asset of incalculable value to present and future generations. At the same time, to date, the threats to species and ecosystems have never been greater. The extinction of species because of human activities has continued at an alarming pace. In 1988, the United Nations Environment Program convened the ad hoc working group of experts on biological diversity in order to explore the creation of an international convention on biological diversity. The convention was opened for signature on 5 June 1992 during the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, the Earth Summit of Rio. Nowadays, 196 countries are contracting parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. The Convention on Biological Diversity has three main objectives: the conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of its component, and the equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of their utilization. These are its three main objectives as stated in its Article 1. These three aspects, conservation, sustainable use, and sharing of benefits, are at the root of the whole philosophy of conservation since the Rio Summit. It is important for you to know this and assess its impact. Other articles are important to us. For example, Article 8 on in situ conservation, Article 9 on ex situ conservation, and Article 10 on the sustainable use of components of biological diversity are very relevant for protected areas. Article 8 has 13 paragraphs that are all of interest to us. Pay them special attention. In particular, Paragraph A of Article 8 on the establishment of a system of protected areas, Paragraph B on the development, where necessary, of guidelines for the selection, establishment, and management of protected areas, and Paragraph H on the prevention of the introduction, control, or eradication of alien species which threaten ecosystems, habitats, or species. Through these articles, what does the CBD remind us? Protected areas are the cornerstone of the conservation of biodiversity. They preserve key habitats, offer sanctuaries, allow for the migration and displacement of species, and maintain natural processes in the whole landscape. Protected areas don't just safeguard the preservation of biodiversity. They also ensure the well-being of mankind. Protected areas allow some 1.1 billion people to survive, are the main source of drinkable water for over a third of the world's largest cities, and offer a major guarantee for global food security. The bodies of the Convention are as follows. The Convention of the Parties. It gathers all signatories and meets every 2 years in order to review the implementation of the Convention. the subsidiary body in charge of providing scientific, technical, and technical advice. The Intergovernmental Committee for the Nagoya Protocol, which we will discuss in a later module, the Working Group on Protected Areas, as there is a specific program of the Convention in charge of protected areas. The Convention has a strategic plan for biodiversity for 2011 through 2020, in which are defined the famous Aichi biodiversity targets, which there are 20 of. We will talk about this in more detail in the next module. The CBD also has mechanisms for implementation and a framework for cooperation and partnership. The Conference of the Parties is the governing body of the Convention. It advances implementation of the Convention through the decisions it takes at its periodic meetings. Over 23 years, the Convention on Biological Diversity has taken a little more than 250 decisions, including several on the creation, governance, and restoration of terrestrial and marine protected areas. Recent decisions taken by the Convention illustrate topical subjects. For instance, integrating biological diversity in the United Nations Development Program and the Sustainable Development Goals. Ensuring that biological diversity serves the fight against poverty and for sustainable development. Promoting the sustainable use of biological diversity, for example, through bushmeat and the sustainable management of wildlife. Other types of decisions, the inclusion of gender equality concerns. An increasingly important issue also focuses on the conservation and restorations of ecosystems. And finally, the CBD recognizes the need to improve the efficiency of the structures and mechanisms of the Convention, in particular, the work of the subsidiary body on implementation. The Convention on Biological Diversity is a multilateral agreement on the environment which seeks to protect and restore the global environment and contributes to sustainable development. The work undertaken under the Convention has increased in volume and has an increasingly important impact, especially due to the growing attention paid to issues of implementation. More and more, governmental officials from all over the world participate in international negotiations in the framework of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Their work, their decisions, their recommendations have a daily impact on what we do or want to do in protected areas in Africa. But we have to remember that this is first and foremost a multilateral agreement, which requires a lot of consensus, and that this may sometimes limit the impact of the decisions that are taken. That's it. This is the end of the class. The next episode will be the conclusion of this module in the form of a short animation, and of course, the assignment suggested for the week. In the meantime, have a great day.